Welcome to the third advanced tutorial for TSpower. In this tutorial, we will look at how to set advanced preferences for the selections we've made. Let's start with the dataset CDD and the variable citizen male. As a sample case, the variable citizen male tells us the number of male populations throughout Thailand. Now let's pick a tool. Let's use the whisk and box tool. And we're going to pick two variables, number of male citizens for 2003 and for 2005. After that, I'm just going to create this graph. So after creating this graph, now we can go and change certain preferences that apply either to specific selections of the graph or to the whole graph. Let's look at options that apply to the whole graph first. So you can see a little thing here called choose options for all selections. If I click there, a box opens up. I can do a couple things here. First, I can change the title of the graph. I can turn it into male population Thailand. If I don't do this, it will use an automatically generated title. Clicking on making a graph again. A couple of seconds. Now we have a new graph with a new title. Comparing this to the previous title, which was automatically generated. Now the second thing you can do is change the size of the graphs. By default, everything's at medium. You can make things small. I can make the height small and then make the width small. So you can see the image below has changed a little bit, but it's just resizing the image. It's not making a new image at the new size. So what you really want to do is, after changing the size, click on that again, and you will make a new graph that's specific for this size. And if you try to download this, it's at the correct size, the smaller one. Now, scrolling back up, the last thing you can do is change whether you want to cut away outliers. By default, 1% of outliers are cut when you do whisk and box plots with this data set. The way to cut outliers is first you choose whether you want to cut highest, lowest, or both highest and lowest, and then you choose the percentage of outliers you will cut in either or both directions. So let's try cutting no outliers and see how the graph changes. You can see the title is no longer male population Thailand. So every time the new title you use is only applied once. If you this way, a specific title you choose for one graph won't be stuck there for the other graphs that you make, which might be irrelevant. Now let's just create this again. And you can see that we're cutting no outliers. So comparing this to the first graph we made, or rather the last one we made, so we have number 4, number 3, you can see that number 4, which doesn't cut any outliers, has a bunch of villages here where there's a lot of people, and it's no longer very easy to understand, read the graph. So most of the time you really do need to cut away some outliers. We can also cut away a higher percentage of outliers than the default 1%. Let's choose 5. Now you can see that in comparison to number 3, which is 1%, we have 5%, and the graph has changed, and it says 5% of the top outliers cut on top. Now there are certain options, general options, which apply to all selections, which are specific to certain tools you choose. So say we choose the histogram tool. Let's click there. Now under options, you see that instead of just outliers, we have another option, the number of intervals. Let's just make this without changing that. So by default, 50 bars are used, 50 intervals are created for the histograms, but we can actually change this to 20. So after clicking on that, now we have 20 bars. Compare this to the previous graph. You can easily see the difference. Now let's, instead of changing parameters that apply to the whole graph, let's try changing some things that only apply to each specific selection. So I just chose the map tool, adjacent map, different quantiles. If I just make them, I'll create a map with a graph with 2 maps. A problem occurs with this graph, and that is we're actually not looking at the total population of Thailand in each region. We're actually averaging across villages to see which village has more people on average. So this might not be what you actually want. So instead of taking the average, you might want to take the summation of village population. Since the maps are actually showing you polygons at the sub-provincial level, which is much higher than the village. So instead of aggregating by average, we can aggregate by sum. Now let's do that for the first selection we make. You can see there's a thing called choose options. If I click there, now a bunch of options pop up. First thing I can choose is, instead of taking the average, now I can do summation. So again, instead of now taking the average of all the villages inside a sub-provincial area, now the first map is summing all the population in each sub-provincial area for each of the village. Now this is showing you the true distribution of population where there's more people. The second graph here is only showing you in which sub-provincial area of Thailand there is on average more people in each village. Whereas the first map is showing you where, in which sub-provincial area do you have the most people in Thailand. Now scrolling back up, we can choose more options. So for the first map, I can now, instead of using yellow, make it red to green. Now I have a different color. Now instead of red to green and drawing polygons, I can draw points. Point means you're going to use the centroid position of each polygon instead of the whole polygon. So now we have a different map. And lastly, you can actually multiply or divide, do addition or subtraction with this variable. The easiest thing you can do is actually just multiply things by specific number. This is doing it at the raw level. You can multiply your data by 30. Why is this useful? You might be looking at, for example, daily wage rate, and you can use this to get the monthly wage rate. Other thing you can do with the multiplication division tool is, once you open the summary, if you click there, this is a little hidden, but it's usable. Once you click there, after you click on summary, there's this menu of variables which you can use to identify this current selection you have made. That's listed here, and you can learn more about this in the previous advanced tutorial. But the same list actually also is populated here. So instead of just having those numerical numbers, we actually have this whole list of variables. What is this? So let's say you click here and you choose multiply. What this is going to do is it's going to use the number of male citizens in each village and divide that by number of households growing rice not more than 5 rays. So why is this useful? So you could potentially have chosen here the total income of a village, and then you could choose here divide by number of citizens, and then you will get income per citizen in each province. So this allows you to do simple division and multiplication across provinces and look at kind of the new variables you created and compare them against other variables. So those are the advanced preferences. Thank you very much. That was tutorial advanced tutorial 3 for TSpower.